We knew this day was going to come, but that doesn't mean it makes it any easier. According to reports, the Saints plan on releasing Michael Thomas. Let's talk about it right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Vogel, and as always, we're brought to you by Scott Fickenair, Injury Lawyers, and DraftKings Sportsbook. So it was reported on this Thursday morning by Jeff Duncan that the Saints plan on releasing Michael Thomas around the start of the new league year, which will begin on March 13th. So that's next Wednesday. And he said it's not a matter of if, but when the Saints move on from Michael Thomas, which isn't really a surprise at this point. I think Michael Thomas's tenure with the Saints has reached that point where they can both benefit from moving on. But look, this is a sad moment. And I know that there's a lot of, recency bias in the way people view Michael Thomas. And there's a lot of talk about what they don't like that he does, whether it's the social media activity or certain antics. And I'm not saying that Michael Thomas is the easiest guy to deal with. And I'm not saying Michael Thomas is the easiest player to root for. But what I will say is that throughout his career, especially pre-injury, I don't know if there was a player outside of Drew Brees, obviously, that I could gravitate towards more than Michael Thomas, because you saw the relentless pursuit of wanting to be great. You saw that mindset where every snap, Michael Thomas had the same energy, fought with that same physicality that guys couldn't match. And it stinks that we've reached this point where the Saints are moving on, Michael Thomas is moving on, and we got to go, yep, I mean, we all saw it coming. It's for the best, but that's kind of the way this situation has gone, whether it's due to injuries, whether it's due to friction behind the scenes, whatever it may be. It's definitely disappointing. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say good riddance. Look, the way I see it, I'm always going to wish Michael Thomas well. I can't just erase what happened from 26 to 2019. Like, that is, from that stretch of time, that's the best receiver to ever suit up for the Saints. In my opinion, for my money, like that 2019 season, he was named Offensive Player of the Year, and he was the first wide receiver to do that since Jerry Rice. So I know it's easy to crack jokes about Slant Boy and, that he's never healthy, this and that. Man, fuck all that. Like, Michael Thomas, when healthy, was that guy. And it stinks that we've reached this point, but like I've said before, it is time for them to go their separate ways.
The thrill and excitement of March Mania is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, is giving new customers a shot to turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any college basketball bet. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code BOOT. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets, only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code BOOT. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/promos for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Now, for Michael Thomas's future, what's next for him? I don't know. Like, I would imagine teams like the Ravens, teams like the Chiefs, they could maybe take a flyer on him because he's not going to cost an awful lot. It'd be a one-year deal, and you're basically hoping that you can try and squeeze out whatever elite football is left out of that player. And I think the Ravens make a lot of sense, right? If they move on from Odell Beckham Jr., which it seems like they will, I think Mike kind of fits that offense of being that short intermediate route type of guy that they can use to help them out, and that might be the case. As for the Saints, the only thing I would say that I am content with the way this situation has played out is I always worry when we reach the point of what's next after Michael Thomas, who's going to be that guy. Would the Saints have him? And I feel like they do in Chris Olave. So to some degree, while obviously I don't love the idea of you're moving on from a guy that is so, important to what that success was, you understand that he's no longer the player he once was. And you also understand that the Saints do have kind of that successor to being wide receiver one waiting in the wings, which is Chris Olave. And even Rashid Shaheed is a pretty damn good player. So it makes it definitely an easier pill to swallow. If anything, the pain that you feel today as a fan, it's what it is, what I just said. It's from that fandom side of things where you get attached to players and things of that nature. But it's a sad moment. Before I finish, though, and wrap it up, I just want to say that when you look at Michael Thomas's career, if we just take the Saints side of things out, right? Because obviously as Saints fans, we're going to be attached to Michael Thomas and think highly of him and, bring up the good memories. And you should, right? Because there were such good times. If you just look at his numbers, the first 4 years of his career, he had 92 catches, 104 catches, 125 catches, and 149 catches. And then receiving yards wise, had over 1,100, over 1,200, over 1,400, over 1,700. You saw a Hall of Fame career literally taken away by an injury that happened in a game where the Saints were pretty much running up the score in a game they already won. And man, does that suck for the team, but more importantly, that sucks for the player, because you couldn't watch Michael Thomas from 2016 to 2019 and tell me that that's not a Hall of Famer, because he was, and he was on track to be. And of course, obviously injuries played a role and things happen, and now he's going to hit the open market. So I wish Michael Thomas all the best. Obviously, it's frustrating and sad that he will no longer be with the Saints, but I do think now is the time for both sides to go their separate ways. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comment section below. Are you upset? Is it a bittersweet moment? Is it one that you're indifferent now over at this point? What are your thoughts on Michael Thomas possibly and potentially getting released in the next week? Put them down below and I'll get to them. And as always, guys, subscribe to Boot Crew Media's YouTube page for videos from the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation.